Bada boom! Don't we like big papa head? Big shiny papa head? That's what makes the videos better, I think, is that I have a big fat head. Big fat bald idiot head. That's what makes these videos so good. Big fat papa stupid head. Big stinky papa head. Okay, enough of this. I'm being an idiot now. Okay. All right, let's actually get into this topic. So, just like the title suggests. Okay, so people keep tagging me or kept tagging me in this video here, where it's really just like an audio. It's just an audio. I can't say words. Where it's really just an audio that says like "Como se dice," like I don't give a fuck. Okay, that's what the audio is. So it's like basically the joke is like stand for the national anthem. My dad died for our country. That's somebody telling her that, and then her joking video is
fail to realize about me is I don't, como se dice, give a fuck.
See, right. So that's the joke. Now listen, do I personally like it? No, I don't like the joke. But it's just not. But here's the thing: it's a joke. It's dark humor. It's not directed towards me. So if I don't like it, I just simply leave it alone. Which is why I didn't originally talk about it. And if her argument was like, "Hey, it's a joke. Shut up and get over it," that's perfectly reasonable. I make jokes people find offensive. I don't think that she's a bad person. I think that she made a bad joke. I think because I just didn't like it. Right? That doesn't mean that it is a bad joke. It means that I think it's a bad joke. Just as I make bad jokes or I make jokes people think are bad. You get my point. It's very subjective. What really bothers me though is her response. She could have just been like, "I don't care," blah blah blah, but she decided to put up this really like terrible response. And I'm gonna explain to you why it's so bad and stupid. So let's listen to it.
Since World War II and even okay, this video, let's address it. No American soldier has fought for freedom since World War II, and even then it was not specifically for American rights. Recent generations that have served have fought for lobbyist America, imperialism, and oil rights and dictation. American rights specified for white people have been solidified in the Constitution since 1787. When constitutional rights were implemented, so was the 3/5 Compromise, which categorized black people as 3/5 of human. Therefore, they were exempt from exercising any and all amendments in so-called human rights. Because of the civil rights movement, I have room to exercise the amendments, but not without racially motivated threat. You should also understand that America is very literally not the best country in the world. America is the 53rd freest country in the world. The most prominent things that we rank first in globally is mass shootings, the incarcerated population, obesity rates, and statistically being the most racist country in the world. With that being said, I don't respect America, nor the flag, nor the military. Yes, the video was disrespectful, that was the point. The white American population thrives in the hands of respect throughout our history and to today. I'm not sorry.
Okay, great. That's fine. Okay, listen. First and foremost, I'm going to start out by saying, like, America is the greatest country in the world, okay? And I'm actually going to explain to you why I genuinely believe America is the greatest country in the entire world, okay? Right? The reason that I genuinely believe America is the greatest country in the entire world specifically is because we're doing something that no other country is trying to do. And that is we are the most ethnically diverse first world country that exists. And we're flawed and it's hard and it sucks. But we're trying. We are legitimately as a country trying. And I think that there's no other first world Western country has as many non-white people in it. Right? We're struggling because like it's a bunch of different people with different races and creeds and cultures all mixing together and trying their best to survive. And we're like a social experiment. And that's the thing that I really value about America more than anything else is that we are showing the world that like race doesn't matter and it's hard. And I know that we're a racist country and I don't know how you would say that we're the most racist country. I actually doubt that statistics. I doubt she even has a statistic. I think that's her personal interpretation. Right. But again, we're trying. And I love this country. Okay, I really do, and I think that once we can actually fight, inequality, we will be a better country. Okay, but that's not really the thing that bothered me more than anything else. Right? It's this weird idea that it's justifiable, and like again, it's fine if it's a joke, but like since she decided to overcomplicate it and remove the joke from the joke, we're going to treat it as such. Okay. Here's the biggest thing. This is the cognitive dissonance of this person. This person is like a socialist Marxist. I don't know, either a socialist or look at this. All the hashtags in her videos like leftist Marx. So she seems to be like some kind of a communist, right? So she's a communist, okay? And here's what I don't like about the whole
this video
communist thing. I'm gonna explain. This is gonna be a bit of gonna take a little bit of effort, but I want to show you. We're gonna actually. It's gonna take a little bit of showing as to why she's engaging in cognitive dissonance. So let's actually do it like this, okay? Okay. Now, if any of you guys have ever had conversations with communists before, there's something very interesting about it. Oftentimes, the meme to tell communists and socialists is if they don't like it, don't like one of the biggest issue that communists have, or socialists or whatever, with the country is the fact that they find profits. They think that profits are inherently oppressive, right? They think that like the existence of a profit is oppressive, right? And if you look, we're going to use iPhone as an example. It's constantly brought up. If you look at iPhones, right, in order to create an iPhone, through the chain of creation, there's a ton of oppression, specifically in how underpaid Chinese workers are, to the point where they're hurling themselves off the top of factories because they work like 6 days a week, 12 hours a day for really shitty pay. Incredibly oppressive, right? So you have your iPhone here. Beep, bop, boop. You have your iPhone right here, right? And in order to make that iPhone, you have to be oppressive. We're just going to put a big OP. You have to be oppressive, right? But who has to be oppressive, right? We're going to say the powers. The powers are oppressive. Or like the leaders are oppressive. We want to call it the leaders. We'll call it the leaders. So leaders are oppressive to make the iPhone. And what people will say is like, oh, if you don't like the systems of oppression, communists, then why don't you stop consuming products that are created through oppression? And their argument here is, well, the product itself here isn't oppressive, right? It's the way we make the product, right? So if we switch to whatever other system, it wouldn't be oppressive. If we did communism, making iPhones wouldn't be oppressive anymore, right? Basically justifying their usage of the iPhone. Now, for context, if you find, let's say, like clothing, for instance, is like they have like people in like other countries work for slave labor to make you dresses, and then they overprice them. If you wanted to fight against oppression, you could just not buy an iPhone. You don't need an iPhone. Go buy a flip phone. Or you could go and just exclusively wear hand-me-down clothing, or shop at like Savers. You shop at some kind of a thrift store. But they won't do that, right? Because they don't want to give up their comfort. They're just as complicit in the slavery and whatnot as everybody else. They just like to try to gaslight people into making them realize they're not. But anyway, the problem here is that we have people in the military, right? There are people in the military, right? And the people in the military, right, they're doing the wrong thing, right? So there's oppression linked within the military. Specifically, that oppression comes from our leaders, right? Like, we haven't fought a just war since World War II. A lot of people say, yeah, absolutely. But if you say that we can't fight a just war, if we haven't fought a just war since World War II, you're acknowledging that just wars exist, right? Which means that the military in itself isn't an inherent system of oppression, just as here, right? Oop, that was weird. It's not a system that is inherently oppressive. It's the leaders that are oppressive. So I'd ask a lot of you communists, why do you hate people working in the military so much? People on the ground dying so much? Why do you hate these people so much when, by your own logic, it's not their fault that they're not fighting in just wars? They're existing within a system that is not fundamentally corrupt. It is just corrupt based on our society, right? And so if you apply the logic to both of these things, you see very clear cognitive dissonance, where it's like iPhones are amazing. Like, oh, I can't do without an iPhone. It's the system isn't inherently corrupt. It's just that there's corruption in the system. So it's justifiable to consume this product. But when it comes to military members, all of a sudden, all military members are complicit in the actions of their leaders. And if your argument's like, well, just don't go into the military, well, just don't buy an iPhone. Do you understand when you really break this down? The logic of these progressives, not all progressives, individually, like some Marxists who will use this type of rhetoric, the logic is fundamentally flawed. You guys are engaging in cognitive dissonance, and like you're just like, I mean, give me a fucking break. That's pretty much what I'm coming down to. Okay, if you think that this system, if you think that it's justifiable to use an iPhone, even though the system itself is corrupt, then you think that it's justifiable to be in the military. So disrespecting military members is logically inconsistent. So there you go. And that's the biggest problem I have with this video. Is like so many people think that they're so woke. But when you really break down their logical rule sets, they're actually very ignorant. And they don't quite fully understand what they're talking about. And they're not logically consistent in their engagement with the world. It really has to, it's whatever they want to criticize, they criticize, and they don't really give a shit. Right? This isn't exclusive to communists. This is something that, like, or rather, like progressives. This is something that conservatives engage in as well. But this is the particular. This is here is I'm just exposing the hypocrisy of a lot of communist people. So yeah. And to that point, somebody's like, "Oh, make your own phones, nerds." Honestly, why aren't you advocating for? If you really gave a shit about product, let's say you gave a shit about how terrible iPhones are, why don't you like legitimately advocate for like a startup like a company to start up and like make a product as good as an iPhone that's going to be much more expensive, of course, but doesn't use slavery, right? Like I'll buy it if you told me, like I have like $1,000 phone. If you told me that you were going to make a phone that's going to cost me $2,000, but there wasn't a single strand of human abuse or human rights violations, and it was all made in America or like another first world country, whatever, I'd buy it. I would totally buy it. So make it. Do that. Make your own clothes. Sell your own clothes. You understand what I'm saying? There's a market for it. But the people who care the most about these, or say they care the most about these repressive systems, they don't really give a shit. They'll tell you things like, well, I can't really, they'll be like, oh, activism doesn't work, like conveniently, right? When it would work, right?